Everybody, how we doing? Looking good. Well, good evening. It's about 6:28. I've got a couple minutes before starting, so I'll let people hop on as we get ready for our devotions for tonight from Zion Lutheran here in Minot, North Dakota. Looking forward to having some conversation with you all tonight. Well, it will be, I've got some fun stuff for you to try with your family tonight. Hey, Faye's on. Hi, Faye. I'm just kind of checking to see who's hopping on. So I've got my phone here because I can see a few more people, it looks like. Oh, there's Wrestlers. Hi, Wrestlers. I hope my kids are there too, right? Wrestlers, and yeah. How many of you enjoyed the sunshine today? I thought the sunshine was pretty awesome. Hey, yeah, it's good to see you too, Faye. I haven't seen you forever. It's kind of fun to see you hop on. I've got a couple more minutes, so I'll wait a couple more minutes as people are getting ready to hop on. I went for a couple walks today. That was super nice outside. It was a little chilly this morning. It felt like 30 degrees when I went for a walk. But just bundled up and went for a couple miles this morning, which was super nice. Got a couple more hopping on. There we go. If you hop on, let me know you're here because I doesn't look like I can see everybody that's hopping on. So just give me a quick shout out so I can see who's on. Hey, Brian, good to see you hop on. That's fun. And it is 6:30, so it is time to get started tonight. So if you have a chance, if you have your candle, we always start by lighting a candle. So if you don't have one, I'll give you a couple seconds to do that. But we will light a candle just to remind ourselves that, sometimes we live in a world that seems scary and maybe even a little dark. Hey, Lisa, good to see you. But when we light a candle, we remember that the light of Christ is with us to guide us and be with us and lead the way for us. So there will always be hope when we can look for that light of Christ that's all around us. So the next thing we always start with for devotions is to remember that God is all around us. So we always start by saying, God be in my head, God be in my heart, God be on my left, and God be on my right. So I'm going to invite all of you to do that with me. Remember, we start at the head. We go, God be in my head, God be in my heart, God be on my left, God be on my right. Okay, and if you notice, it makes the sign of the cross, doesn't it? So let's do it all together. Ready? God be in my head, God be in my heart, God be on my left, and God be on my right. Amen. Well, tonight I have a couple things that I want to share with you. The story I have to share is about the early church, the early believers. So this is after Jesus died on the cross and rose again, the ascension into heaven. And so then there were these people that were left, right? And Jesus had given them a commandment to go and tell people, about who I am and what I've done for you, and invite them into this. Invite them into this life that I give to you abundantly. So I want you to turn, if you have your Spark Story Bible, you can turn to page 504. Page 504 to follow along. If not, I'm just going to try and show some of the pictures. I'm going to paraphrase. It's a really short story today, but there's lots to talk about because there's a lot of good stuff in this story. So it talked about the early believers, and they were great at sharing. Okay, I know some of you have siblings, kiddos, and how great are you at sharing? So the early believers were really good at sharing. You know what they shared? They shared their food and their clothes and their money and even their homes. So if somebody came and they didn't have a home, guess what? They just made sure everybody had a place to stay. They were so generous. And there was no one who was poor or needy because others gave without holding anything back. That would be pretty cool, wouldn't it? Just think about it. If nobody had to worry about food, if nobody had to worry about a home because everybody shared. And so they saw, as they were gathering, they saw many miracles, and they met in the temples and taught each other, and they met in homes. They talked about Jesus, and they thanked God for blessing them. Then something really amazing happened. So I'm going to show you this picture. This is what they were doing, sharing everything. So can you see that? Here they're sharing. Pretty cool, right? They're sharing everything. Well, when other people saw how happy the first believers were because they were sharing and they were talking about Jesus, they believed too. And they became Christians. They started to believe in Jesus. And they started to share their food and their clothes and their money and their homes. And they became one big Christian family. And the family, the church family, grew and grew. So I love that story because I love the thought of family. And so I know many of you have been spending a lot of time with family, right? We've been spending a lot of time with family. But have you ever thought about the rest of your family? Well, maybe not grandmas and grandpas and aunts and uncles and cousins, but what about the rest of your church family? And not just the people at Zion, but the bigger church, all believers. That's a pretty big family, isn't it? Well, God created us to be this family, created the human race. And then, of course, Jesus came, and he came to teach us how to be a family, how to care for one another, how to love and share. And I know that's not easy sometimes, is it? Sometimes it's a little difficult when we have something and we don't want to share it. Have you ever had that happen? You get a new toy or you get a new book and you're like, no, I need to read it first. It's mine. Well, think about all of the rest of our church family. That some of our church family is in a different position. Maybe you have some books and they don't have those books. So in the early church, when the people started to believe in Jesus, they shared everything. So I always like to think about this. If I have 5 books and another person in my church family has 5 books and they're different than mine, I really like my books, but what happened if we shared? We'd have how many? 5 plus 5. We would have 10 books together. So sharing everything, is a great opportunity for us to grow as Jesus taught us to grow. I see that Jensen's have hopped on. Hi, Kenna. Hi, Colton. Oh, and Martins are here too. Good to see you guys. We're talking about family and how our church family, we haven't been able to see our church family for several weeks now. I think we're going on 8 weeks. That's kind of a long time. And do you know how much I miss all of you? I miss seeing your faces and hearing your laughing and your singing. So I wanted to think about a way that we could remember our church family. So what are some ways that you think we could remember our church family? There's a lot of people, right? Well, how many of you, some of you may have this. Now, if you don't have this, maybe you have an older one. I know that we probably need to make another one, right? we need to make another directory. You know what the directory does for me? It allows me to see pictures of my church family. So I get to see all these fun pictures, right? Like all these pictures of kiddos doing fun stuff. Oh, there's some day camp, right? But if I go further in the back, I get to see families. So I get to see all these church family pictures. And when I scroll through it, I can look and say, oh, I remember seeing them. I have missed them so much. And it's a great way for us to remember our church family in this time. Oh, I see Allison has stopped on. Hey, Allison. Hey, Stacy and Eskelson family. Hey, Charles C. It's good to see all of you. So it's been fun to kind of think about. I've been going through my directory to think about my church family because I miss all of you so much. And so I've thought about ways that I could think about you, pray for you. Is sometimes it's important to look at pictures, right? And talk about them. Maybe you take the directory and you can sit around as a family. And if you sit around as a family and you look at a picture and you say, oh, do you remember so-and-so? They sit next to us in church. Or I remember so-and-so, that's my church school shepherd. Or that's my confirmation guide. And so if we start thinking about and remembering all the wonderful people that we have, it will just remind us what a great church family that we have. Now, I also want you to think about the wider church family, right? Because we have people all over, right, that are believers and that are part of our church family. How many of you like getting Christmas cards? I love getting Christmas cards. Now, I've had trouble the last couple of years getting Christmas cards out. So some people haven't gotten any Christmas cards from me because I haven't made any. But what I do is I love to take my Christmas cards and I save them. So these are my nieces, and these are some of my cousin's kids. And then I save them and I go through all of these Christmas cards. And I pray for each family that I see on here. So guess what? I have some church families here. I think this is the Tellefson girls. Oh yeah, I've got all kinds of you on Christmas cards. When you brought me a Christmas card, guess what? I saved it. And when I save it, that means that what I do is I go back through my Christmas cards and I pray for you because you're part of my church family and I care about you and I miss you so much. And so when I think about all these wonderful church families that make the big church family together, and we can't be all together. We can't be all together right now, right? But we can pray for one another and think about one another. I think it's a great opportunity to sit around with your family and look through the directory or even look through old Christmas cards and say, what's your favorite memory about this person? Or what's your favorite memory about being together with this person? Maybe going through the directory and thinking about who am I so excited to give a hug to? Or who am I so excited to have Food Faith Family meal with on a Wednesday night? Or who am I so excited to go and see during worship once we can gather again? So being part of God's family is a really special opportunity. We have all these people that are part of God's family, and even though we're not together, we can look through pictures, we can look through directories, so that maybe when we get back together, we will have thought about some really cool memories that we can share with each other. So I'm encouraging you this week to think about how you can remember your church family. I see a couple more people that hopped on. Hi, Sherry. Hi, Jeff. Good to see you guys. As we talk about our church family, what are some questions that maybe you want to ask your church family when we get back together? Have you ever thought about what your favorite part of worship is? I wonder the people that sit next to you in worship, or maybe your church school shepherd, or maybe the people that are in your church school class or confirmation group, you know what their favorite part of worship is? Maybe that would be a great question. Or what is their favorite church memory? I love hearing what people's favorite church memory was. I have so many fun memories of church growing up. And I've called all kinds of fun memories from Zion. So it would be a fun question to be able to ask our church family when we can get back together. What about if you were able to have a $1 million? What would you want to do with it? That might be a kind of a fun question to talk about with your family, but maybe with the church family. What would God want us to do with $1 million? That would be a good question, wouldn't it? How about what food should our church serve each week? I don't know. What's your favorite meal that we have at church? Those are things that we can get to know our church family even better when we come back together. I encourage you to write some of these questions down. And then when we come together, we can sit and have a conversation with some of our church family and talk about how much we missed seeing their faces. In this time of physical distancing, it's been really difficult for me not to be around people. I really missed being around all of you. And so I've really thought about, why do I treasure being around all of you? It's because you're part of my church family and I care about you and I think about you. And so when I can go through the directory or I can go through my Christmas cards, I think about how many of you I can't wait to see again. And I want to ask you questions. I want to get to know you better, because I think this time of social and physical distancing has taught me how much I need to know about you, that I don't know everything I want to know. I want to know more because God made you special. God put you in our lives, and we're in each other's lives, and we're supposed to know each other. God knows you inside and out. And you're part of our family, and I want to get to know you too. So I encourage you to look on the app. I have the activities for this story, the early believers. There's a couple coloring pages. There's also this chatter box, which you can take and fold, and it makes it into like a fortune chatter box. But there are different questions on there. I read a few of those questions tonight. But I encourage you to read some of those questions and ask each other. Maybe ask your immediate family. And then when we get back together, we can ask our church family. Hi, Kevin. Kevin is on. Good. And Laura McCann, good to see you guys. It's so fun to see all of you hop on. And so I encourage us to get to know our church family when we get back together. I've missed being around all of you. I miss seeing your smiling faces, but I know that I need to get to know you better. That has what this physical distancing has taught me, is that I am ready to ask you all questions and really get to know you better. I hope that this is an opportunity for you to talk about what it means to be a family, and what it means to be a church family in these times, especially as we prepare to come back together in some way, shape, or form, whatever that's going to look like. We know it will look different, but as we come back together, I encourage us to remember that we are all part of God's family. And this family, and as amazing to be a part of this family, and I encourage you to get to know each other a little bit better. I hope everything is going well for you and that you are staying safe. Know that I miss you and love you all very much. Blessings. Before I go, I want to give you your blessing. Don't forget to give each other a blessing that says, Jesus loves you so much and so do I. So I will be giving you all a blessing. Jesus loves you so much and so do I. Good night, everybody. See you next week.